This video tutorial will cover the looping controls for SongSurgeon version 3 for Mac. And the looping controls can be found down here in the lower right hand side of the main user interface. Now let's just walk through each of these one at a time and explain what they are. Start and end, I think, are fairly self-explanatory, meaning that as a file is playing on the screen, and remember the current progress indicator is where this white line is as it's playing, and if we hit start, it sets the beginning loop point there, and then as it continues to play, and we hit end, it sets the second loop point on the screen, and what happens is that the first loop point turns green to indicate the beginning and the second one turns red to indicate the end. So the start and the end are simply ways in which you can set the loop points. The other way, of course, and I think I've explained this in another video, but just to repeat it because it would be useful, you can also left click and then right click, and that is a second way to set loop points. So going back to the looping area here on the main user interface, we've covered start and end. Let's now talk about edit and delete. Neither of these buttons, edit nor delete, will work unless you have selected a loop, and you select that loop by putting the progress indicator inside of it, between the beginning and the ending loop points. When you do that and you hit edit, it will delete that loop. Or alternatively, if you do that again by selecting it and then hit edit, you will see that it opens this edit loop window. And we need to spend a little bit of time and go through this window and explain what everything is. Obviously at the top there is a label L2. We can certainly overwrite that. We can call this anything we want. There's a limitation in the number of characters that you can type in here, but it doesn't have to be L2. It can be guitar solos, it can be drum intro, whatever you would like it to be. We have starting and ending points, so those are the position in seconds. Actually, it would be in minutes, seconds, and hundredths of seconds for the beginning and the ending loop points. And then it shows us the pitch and tempo adjustments that have been made to this loop. In this case, the pitch adjustment is 0, and the tempo is still at 100%, meaning that both pitch and tempo are set to the default settings that they were when we first loaded the song. In other words, no changes have been made. And then the last thing down here are loop count and delay, and let's talk about each of these. The loop count, when it's set to -1, simply means that it will loop infinitely. If you type 0 in there, you just simply click in here and overwrite it and type 0, it will not loop at all. It will just act as if that loop point is not there. If you type in here 5, it will loop 5 times. 10 times. You can set the count for the number of loops that you would like it. So that's what the loop count is. And the delay is a delay at the end of the loop. So in this example up here on the screen for loop 2, if we have a delay of 0, it means it loops continuously. It gets to the end, it automatically jumps back to the beginning and continues to play. But if we change this to 5, it will hit the end of the loop, hit this red marker, stop or delay for 5 seconds before it jumps back to the beginning. And again, you can set this 5, 10, 15, 20, I think all the way up to 60 seconds. Why would you want to do this? You might be asking yourself. And the answer or the response is simply that when you're looping something, you're usually focusing on trying to hear or trying to learn that. And you may want to delay when you get to the end of the loop so you can regroup your thoughts, write something down, regroup your fingers so you're ready to play again if you're practicing it. But there are any number of reasons why you might want to delay at the end of the loop before you start the loop again. And so this is a way that you can do that. So that will cover everything we have in this edit loop button. And that means then that the remaining things we have to talk about are these buttons here in the center. And to demonstrate those, I need to set up a couple more loops here. So let me go ahead and do that. Okay, so we have 3 loops set up on the screen, and the progress indicator I will point out to you again is between the beginning and ending points of loop 2. So we've selected loop 2 essentially. So the buttons at the top here without the vertical lines are just beginning and ending buttons. So it will cause the progress indicator, this white line, the current position of the song, to either jump back to the beginning or jump forward to the end. That's simply all it does. And this jumping is within a single loop. So it will not jump outside of the loop. This is just beginning or ending of the loop that you've already selected. These buttons at the bottom jump between loops. So in other words, we are now positioned in this first loop, which we call L2 here. If we click this forward button, it jumps to the beginning of the next loop. If we click it again, it jumps to the beginning of the next loop again. So these buttons jump between loops. And if you click the back button down here, it will jump backwards to the previous loop. Now notice that unlike this button, which jumps to the end of the current loop, this button jumps to the beginning of the next loop and to the beginning of the next loop. And similarly, when we click the button down here to go backwards, it jumps to the beginning of the previous loop and jumps to the beginning of the previous loop. So that will conclude this video tutorial on how to use the loop section found within SongSurgeon. Thanks for watching.